So, if you had a look at the recent announcements of JetBrains, you probably know that they have released a new IDE called JetBrains Fleet. We must call it an IDE because we will be talking about this later. Okay, now with that said, let's go over the actual difference between an IDE, which is nothing but integrated development environment, and text editor. A text editor is meant for editing text, as the name suggests. This might seem pretty obvious, but the definition is what we need to focus on. Visual Studio Code, for example, has a lot more features than just editing text in a file. Debugging, IntelliSense, error correction, error outputs, automation tools, and really there are a lot more, and I just don't want to make this lengthy. And even after all of this, Visual Studio Code is still a text editor, not an IDE. Well, the key reason right here is the extensions. Visual Studio Code, for example, relies completely on extensions for literally any feature other than text editing. This makes it more modular and lightweight, but at the same time also makes you configure what you want and give fewer features by default. A text editor is also faster to load since it does not have to load any additional features by default. Come on, you have opened both Visual Studio Code and Visual Studio. You know what I'm talking about. But once opened, if you need to debug a program through an extension, it takes time since it now needs to load the modules and libraries which it had not loaded before. With that done, we will now move on to IDEs. IDEs, on the other hand, is a beast that contains everything you want by default without wanting to download any additional extensions. It has all the features built in while installing and can be easily used by, well, just opening the IDE. It does also have the ability to install extensions, but the extensions are mostly used for simple tweaks like changing themes, etc. But that does not mean that the IDE needs no extensions to work. Android Studio, for example, is an IDE that requires an additional Flutter extension to get started with building Flutter projects. But all the extension does is some simple tweaks to enable some Flutter options. Unlike text editors, IDEs are slower and take more time to load when opened. You don't have to go ahead and then wait for the package to be built or loaded. It already exists loaded into the IDE by default. All you have to do is just run it. This saves time because once the IDE is loaded, it takes far less time when compared to a text editor to debug a piece of code. Well, this is where we were until the announcement of JetBrains Fleet. Coming back to Fleet now, JetBrains Fleet is an IDE which follows a fairly different structure. It does not load any modules, libraries, or anything like that while opening like any other text editor. But once opened, you can also install extensions, change themes, customize the features, and so on, again like what a text editor does. But it has another feature which can change the way we look at IDEs and text editors. It has a small option that can be used to switch to an IDE. Yep, you heard me right. Once pressed, it takes some time to now switch from text editor, which relies on extensions for everything, to fully featured IDE with the modules completely loaded. This basic feature can not only increase the workflow and speed of my coding, but can also increase the speed and performance of the computer. And it really does not stop there. This software is a go-to if you want an IDE or a text editor, or you need both of them and you want to be switching from one to another from time to time. The good thing is that it completely depends on what you enable, disable, and tweak around. This is what makes it different and unique. And at this point, we have merged the whole idea of IDE and text editor, which can mean so much to the tech computer science industry. Well, there should be some cons for everything. In this case, because Fleet is not yet released at the point of making this video, we cannot really know the cons of this product. Although there is one con which I can think of right now. Since it is very new and uses a completely different approach, we should expect the community to be small initially, but again, it is backed by such a big company and has gained a lot of popularity and traction. It might take less time to expand the community. Well, coming to the next big question, what happens to the other IDEs and text editors, and how Fleet affects other IDEs and text editors? Honestly, I have to say this does not hugely affect IDEs like Visual Studio, well, at least when compared to text editors like Visual Studio Code. I can think of no reason why people would stick with VS Code now other than the support, which I'm pretty sure Fleet will gain. Most people aware of Fleet are probably waiting to switch due to speed, efficiency, features, or maybe just curiosity. Although I wonder how this would affect other JetBrains IDEs, cause what I used PyCharm for, I now do it in Fleet, so it would probably affect JetBrains IDEs along with Visual Studio, but not as much as Visual Studio Code or other text editors. With that done, we finally come to the conclusion of this. I am waiting for the change, curious about the future, and excited about this product. This can change so much. Of course, people would start learning from this and predicting the future. We could start having other text editors and IDE mix like this as well. Of course, if JetBrains has done this, people are gonna go ahead and then do the same. With that done, if you are interested in more tech, development, designing, and editing videos just like this, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, share this video to other people who need it, and yep, we have finally come to the end of this video, and I will meet you in